I mean, yeah, like close it. I mean, wait, so you're doing the restream, so you're basically streaming on YouTube too as well, right? Okay, wait. Okay, don't click. Wait, let me go to YouTube. One moment. Yeah, okay, I can hear myself on YouTube. I just checked. Yeah, then the Twitch isn't working. Just ignore Twitch. Just stick to YouTube. It's fine. It will save. Let's see. It is. I can hear myself. Yeah, I can hear my own voice on YouTube. That's it. I don't hear the AMA. Let's see. It's weird though. I mean, do you even hear anything from the AMA or in general? Yeah. Yeah, then it's probably just like bugged. Maybe close the website and just reopen it. Like the link itself, just like rejoin. We're sorry for the inconvenience, guys. We're just trying to fix it really quick. Just go to the. Wait. Yeah, we're just trying to sort out the problem really quick. So we do apologize for this. Replying to the comment on YouTube. Just give us a quick moment just to resolve this issue. Just put it on the link above.
To exist by the larger entity. It's centralized. But at the same time, you know, the guy who is selling you lemonade, or the guy who has fresh produce, or the gal who is, you know, selling goat milk, or whatever they're doing at farmers markets these days. It's different here in Colorado. It's very community driven, right? And there's organic things that can happen within this centralized environment. So you have this element of participation, but the participation is within this formalized structure. Is that a good way to think of what KTO is building? I'd love for you to kind of explain more this community-driven centralized exchange aspect.
I think that's a really good analogy, actually. I think it comes another point on that is if you were to go to a farmer's market and buy some mushrooms, you can be fairly sure that they're going to be mushrooms. However, if a guy in the street said, "Hey, do you want to buy some mushrooms?" you can be less sure that these are, you know, legal to use and the mushrooms that you're looking for, right? And so, well, you are, I suppose, but you get my point, right? And so, by things being centralized, when the team is putting the community's interest at the front and it's centralized, the whole place is safer because there is a final check which someone can say, you know what, this doesn't fit with our guidelines, so we can remove it. Whereas, you know, we can say that, you know, by on Kounotori, that's not going to happen because we're going to do all of these checks before the person comes or before the product comes onto the platform. And so, yeah, absolutely community driven in that the community will help and dictate in the direction that the product goes, but centralized in that you can feel safe in using it.
Yeah, and it also sort of leverages the community aspect from the other side. So obviously the community of investors, I think they might be lovingly called stockholders. But there's the community of investors that is driving this, but then also flipping that onto you know, the sort of partner tokens that that Martin was mentioning, that we want to build a platform to then lift up the community of other smaller currencies, that we can then, as everyone was mentioning, do the checks that we need to do and make sure that we're comfortable with them, but also giving them a platform to provide for themselves and hopefully get bigger and things like that. So it's sort of both sides of that community aspect that that this is really focusing on.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that I haven't come across. Like, the only thing that it seems analogous to in the traditional world is, like, because I was thinking, as I was listening to everybody here explain it with the farmers market model, I was like, oh, well, then it's not a DAO, because a DAO is like much kind of closer to anarchy, which is why a lot of DAOs are inefficient, because it's hard to get people corralled to get stuff done. Or some DAOs become authoritarian because you have 1 million people that have the potential to vote and only 5 people vote. So they lead the way. So this is more of like I said, like another analogy that I came to is it's almost like a certified B corporation, where it's like in the US, you have these corporations that they're clearly corporations. They want to make a profit. They're led by a CEO. They're efficient, but they've made it a part of their mission to get lots and lots of consumer feedback in moving forward. And as long as the consumer feedback doesn't make them go out of business, they're open, willing to listen to it, to improve. And a lot of them are pretty high quality companies. So this is just kind of a fascinating thing. I don't mean to harp on this for a long time.
It's sort of the term sort of centralized is often a con or a scary word in crypto a lot of the time. But as it's becoming more mainstream and more people are finding out about it, and we have non-crypto natives starting to do all sorts of things, centralized now becomes a word that's more traditional. The more traditional approach, you have that final sign off. There's this level of hierarchy and organization that means that there's some level of safety. And so I think we're slowly starting to see centralized sort of come back around, I think, in terms of the way people think about these kinds of platforms.
Yeah, it becomes like a balance, like you said, because you go on SushiSwap or Uniswap, and if you want to, you could lose your shirt all day. There's essentially no governance there, and then and then you go on someplace like Binance, and even if you're KYC'd up the wazoo, it might still take you 10 days to receive any funds that you've gone out from. It's just the way that they do business. So interesting that we have this community-driven sort of centralized exchange, and because it's centralized, you guys have mentioned that it's able to provide this level of security, transparency, being able to protect users that are going to be using it. And I've noticed here that you have a number of anti-manipulation features that I have never heard of before, that I definitely want explained. And the one that really caught my attention, just because it's a very interesting name, is the anti-sandwich attack. Gentlemen, what's wrong with sandwiches, and why do we have to be anti-sandwich?
Well, with sandwich attacks, if anyone has traded on any decentralized exchange, it's likely, especially on tokens which require higher slippage, it's likely that you've experienced a sandwich attack, which is, for example, where a bot front runs you and buys a massive amount of the token before you, so the price jumps up right before your purchase, and then you end up buying at the artificially inflated price, and then the bot sells right after your purchase, basically stealing a little amount of your purchase. Essentially, that's a sandwich attack, because it's called that because there's 2 transactions on each side of your transaction, essentially sandwiching your transaction and taking profits off of it. It can get really extreme depending on the slippage that the user sets when purchasing. And some tokens I've seen sort of allow sandwich attacks purposefully because it boosts their volume. But in our case, we really wanted to focus on protecting the investors and our token holders. So we implemented a feature where no single address can make more than one transaction on our token per single block. In this way, we avoid essentially sandwich attacks because the bots aren't allowed to make the transactions as quickly and front run and then instantly sell after the users.
Well, I just learned something here, and it had nothing to do with pepper jack or mayonnaise or anything like that. Thank you so much for explaining that. I mean, that's another thing that can be complicated is like, even I, being in crypto since 2017 and not being hugely into altcoins. Every so often, they're interesting, but kind of having 5 or 6 projects that have been my favorites that I tend to look at over the long term. You go on something like PancakeSwap and they're asking you about slippage and you're just like, should I go to school to have a finance degree? What the hell is this? So it's good to know that, I think most people, even if they've been in crypto a while, some of the financial terms can throw them off and they wouldn't have any idea of what a sandwich attack would be. And so you just explained it right there that, somebody can basically use, I didn't realize how many bots are around there doing arbitrage trades and making a whole bunch of money off of people's essentially just like user errors. I actually read a news story yesterday where somebody had a maximum extractable value bot that they used to make $1 million in arbitrage in ETH. And then somebody else programmed a bot to get that bot to maliciously or to erroneously send that million ETH to an address that they had. So even the bot was tricked. The computer was tricked out of its money. The other two ones that I wanted somebody to explain pretty briefly are anti-honeypot and anti-tax manipulation, because those are, once again, also things that I don't think we think about when it comes to an exchange, or most people don't know about it. And then, gentlemen, we can, of course, talk about staking, NFTs, your own blockchain before we get to some listener questions, okay?
Yep, that's fine. So first of all, I'm going to cover the anti-honeypot feature. Basically, the way honeypotting works usually is when people can buy the token, but they either can't sell it, or the owner of the contract has a function within the contract where using which they can disable the selling. So users who have bought and haven't sold up until that point, they won't be able to sell ever. And then that can lead to the owner essentially stealing the money, rug pulling, or whatever. The reason why we're unable to do that is because we don't have a function where we can stop the trading. However, we do have a function where we can set a limit on single transaction amounts. So it works as a percentage of total supply, and the lowest is 0.1% of the total supply, which equates to 1 trillion tokens. There have been instances where tokens have launched, and while they probably weren't planned to be honeypots, they did have this feature and wasn't restricted, so they ended up setting the max transaction to 0%, and no one was able to sell those tokens ever. As for the anti-tax manipulation, again, this goes the other way as well. Similar thing again, where tokens that have tax on each transaction, be it to fund their development of their utility or to fund their marketing, this tax could potentially be set to as high as 100%. So anyone who buys, sells, transfers their tokens are instantly going to have all their tokens taken away from them and moved to whichever wallet is set to receive them, essentially. The reason why we're unable to do that, even if we wanted to, is because, again, our contract is protected against it, because the function which allows us to control the transaction tax doesn't allow us to go above 8%. We actually have a video on our YouTube channel where I demonstrate all of that, and I show myself attempting to change the both the transaction tax to above 8%, and I also tried to change the maximum transaction to below 1 trillion, and both the values are rejected by our contract. So those were just safety features which we really felt comfortable implementing, because we together, the developers, have invested in many other tokens before, and some of them we just weren't comfortable with the amount of control that the developers had. Even if they didn't abuse that power ever, still we don't think they should have the power to essentially rug pull everyone whenever they want. So we made sure that we don't have that power.
Yeah, wow, that is freaking amazing. So you just explained something that had been a mystery to me for probably at least a year. I would always hear about that, rug pulls, where people are like, I can't sell, and you're like, I just thought that the token was so obscure that you're like, well, there's no exchanges to sell it on, which could have been a legitimate problem. But making the maximum transaction amount 0 or making the tax 100%, I mean, gosh, that's just, I mean, it's interesting because it's contract manipulation. So it's like, it would be like if you signed a rental contract for an apartment, and then like in the teensiest, tiniest print, they were like, oh, and by the way, when you pay the 10th month rent, we can come to your apartment and chop off your legs. And you're like, what? I didn't agree to this. And they're like, yeah, it's in the contract. So fascinating. Totally fascinating.
Or it's more like they added it to the contract after you'd signed it.
Oh, that's even more malicious.
Like, because imagine if the best example is, imagine if the terms of your rental agreement said, you will pay $1,000 for this place, and then one day they changed it and said, now you owe us $1 million. And then you just say, well, I don't have it. And they said, well, too bad, get out then. You go, well, no, that's not what I signed up to. He goes, yeah, we just didn't tell you we changed a contract. Because no one announces anytime anyone has manipulated this maliciously, they obviously don't announce it. You know, when someone turns their transaction tax to 100, no one knows, and people sell and they go, I wonder what's going on. How comes I didn't get anything? And then eventually someone on Discord's going to say, hey, I've just looked at the contract, the transaction tax at 100, don't sell. And I mean, it happened, at least it used to happen so much that, you know, it's kind of crazy to think that we have to call this stuff out. You'd think it would be normal for none of this to happen. But that's the world we live in, where, you know, we have to say, this is what we do. And people go, wow, I didn't even know it was happening to me elsewhere.
No, yeah, well, exactly. And I think it's an interesting educational perspective. Now, because I'm not crazy technical, as you can tell by my mind being blown by some of this stuff. So is this something that's unique to smart contract addresses? Because now I'm thinking about like our earlier discussion of Bitcoin or other blockchains that are not necessarily contract addresses based on Ethereum, Cardano, any of the smart contract platforms. Like since Bitcoin is an open source protocol, or since, I guess, for example, Monero is a bad example because that's an obfuscated chain, but the Monero community really trusts the developers of Monero, and they don't have smart contracts on either of those platforms. It's just somebody controls the contract address, in this case, a developer or a core of developers. And since they're the contract owners, they've been able to manipulate this any way they want to, and they inform the community afterwards, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy. Interesting.
Or more like they never inform the community and disappear.
Yes, that's probably more like it. So then, So then auditability and being transparent in smart contract platforms is continually going to be a huge thing. I'm just now thinking in my mind about if Cardano has done anything to guard against this, or if Ethereum is, but maybe there isn't anything you can do.
You can't, right? Like a smart contract system is just letting you program things on chain. Mm-hmm. So Ethereum can't, Ethereum Foundation can't put something out that would stop people from being able to manipulate it any more than, any programming language company could stop you from doing something malicious.
Sure. Yeah. And I was thinking that, like, even if they did some hard fork where they were like, well, now Ethereum, the maximum transaction tax could only be, let's just say 50%, you'd still have rug pulls where people did 50%, right? Make off with 50% of
because
money.
transaction tax isn't something that Ethereum have written. This is something that the developers of that contract have written into it. So they just take tax in a different way. So smart contracts don't just have predetermined fields which you fill in. So you don't just have an empty smart contract and say, I want my tax to be 20% and have, Ethereum haven't done that. Someone might have written that and then put it out there, but Ethereum haven't written these pre-contracts and just said, use this.
Ah, interesting. We're getting a little bit too technical here, even though I like the in a weird way I have some respect for the criminals that get super technical, but then at the end of the day, it is still just defrauding people and not really good for the world to keep spinning around. So
yeah,
a good way of saying yes, it is kind of unfortunate that you guys have to be open about this and say, hey, by the way, we're not defrauding people, but at the same time, a lot of people don't know that it's happening. So I would look at it as more of an educational perspective that you guys are doing. So I wouldn't I wouldn't hang your head and be like, yeah, sorry that we have to be up front that we're not rug pulling you. I'd have to be like, hey, by the way, did you know that a lot of people want to rug pull you and we're not going to do that? It's kind of almost like a customer service guarantee.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the important thing for us because we'd come into this, being investors in the past and having worked within other tokens, other projects, but not being developers. So we had that sort of insight that people need to be assured, and we sort of did that in every way we could. Be it, like I say, we doxed ourselves, made everything visible, did all the correct paperwork to give that assurance, and then as Johan's been saying, all the implementations, all the security safeguards we put into the contract itself, and then did a video to explain to people why it's important and why you should look out for this. Especially with new tokens. So yeah, but I think we've taken that and tried to implement the same method of building the token into building the exchange, and we're doing everything we can to involve the community and show them the process of building the exchange, what's happening when. We're going to have a roadmap coming out shortly that goes into depth of what's happening within each sprint of development, and I think just allowing investors to follow along with the development cycle with ourselves and with Tech Alchemy, it should be really interesting when that comes out and see how people respond.
Yeah, and we definitely want to talk about the roadmap at the end. That's always a nice kind of way to close things out, especially before we take listener questions or maybe afterwards when we're talking about where people can find you, because it's always looking forward into the future. For right now, I also want to hit on, you guys have an NFT marketplace and NFT staking perks. Now, I see some of your NFTs, and a lot of them are the pixel storks. I love pixel art. So they're on OpenSea here. Could we talk a little bit about the NFT marketplace and some of the perks of the NFTs?
Yeah, of course. Well, the NFTs, essentially, they're going to have utility involved within staking on the exchange. So these are something that we've already, rewarded to holders, long-term holders, and we're looking to reward holders with NFTs most recently due to helping us, get listed on Bitmart exchange. And yes, so these NFTs will have benefits on our own exchange. And I need to double check what the exact figures that we've got in line for the current NFTs are. But essentially, yes, it will be a increased percentage on APY returns, be it the Christmas Stork collection or the I think it was the OG collection we called them. They're done by a fantastic artist who we knew through Shiba Inu. He's done a fantastic job, and everyone loves him. But but in the future, it's not something we're currently working on, because obviously we're focused on the exchange. But yes, we would look in the near future, following that, at maybe some form of NFT marketplace to expand on that, because people have responded really well to the NFTs that we've given away so far.
Nice, and they continue the stork theme that is present everywhere in Kounotori. I was just wondering, usually when people have NFTs, they want people to buy the NFTs, and that's what makes them a holder. But I think that with Kounotori here, it looks like if you have KTO token and you're willing to be part of the project, that's what makes you a stork holder, right? There isn't any one predetermined thing you have to become a stork holder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They were especially the Nintai ones, the moving ones. Those were rewarded to long-term holders who haven't sold. It was a way of rewarding people for their sort of loyalty. We thought it was important to do that. The benefit should be pretty exponential on the exchange itself once it's up and running, which of course will increase their value. I think it was important to us we didn't just release NFTs without any purpose. I think giving NFTs an actual use is important.
Yeah, and it becomes increasingly more important. Not that NFTs aren't beautiful as art, but it's weird because everything in the crypto world moves so fast. I feel like we've almost progressed past the point where if you're only doing NFTs as art, it's like I don't know. It's like telling somebody that you're a graffiti artist, but it's no longer the 1980s or the 1990s. The people accept it, but it's no longer like an interesting thing you can bring up in conversation anymore. Maybe that's a terrible analogy, but I am looking at the Kounotori. Like I said, I love pixel art, especially moving ones. The Christmas collection here with little storks with Santa hats is quite nice. But they're all the backgrounds are based on what kind of look like Japanese wood prints, and so it's pretty well designed art. I would ask everybody to just at least look at it. You don't have to buy it, but it's just nice. It's nice to look at well-designed pixel art because it's harder to do than you think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on here, unless anybody has any comments or things they want to jump in on, and it looks like we lost TA Jake quite a while ago. I keep waiting for him to show back up, but he's just gone.
He unfortunately has some other meeting, I think. So he
no
messaged
worries.
me to say apologies that he's dropped off, but I thought I'd save it till the end.
No worries. Yeah, and if anybody has a hard out, you can just let me know. Otherwise, I try and give the projects their due. Every project, people work hard on this stuff, so I don't like to just do 20-minute Twitter spaces like some people do. So real quick, moving on here, you talk about having your own blockchain, which Bitcoin is a blockchain, Ethereum's a blockchain, Cardano's a blockchain. Having your own blockchain seems like a massive undertaking. Can you kind of expand on that? Because right now you're an ERC20 token. You're using somebody else's, a well-developed blockchain. What do you mean about having your own blockchain?
Basically, am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Basically, it's our plan for long future because we're building our exchange now. We're building other stuff, but we don't want to stop. We really want to be everywhere in crypto space, right? So yeah, the plan is to create safe blockchain without rug pulls, without without any honeypots, things like that. Just safe for the users because there isn't any blockchain like that is 100% safe in crypto space because rug pulls, things like that happen pretty much everywhere. So that's our another mission for 5-10 years plans to create something that is safe for everyone.
Yeah, very, very much at the moment, our main goal is focused on the exchange, get the exchange launched successfully. Obviously, doing testing with the community at the same time and involving them in the process. Obviously, we talked about things like the Nest Council earlier on and involving the community. So how we've involved the community in the token and developing the token and giving them sort of a feedback and evolving the project. We want to do that within the exchange as well. So the idea is that community members, holders, and investors will be able to have a say on, which tokens we're looking at getting listed, which ones we should look at next, which ones should be listed. They'll have, impact on how the improvements being made to the exchange in terms of user face, in terms of, making any corrections on mistakes or anything like that. It basically, it just gives them a voice and a huge amount of feedback that we can then implement on the back of that. As well as having user benefits of being on the Nest Council. We're looking at like customization profiles and interesting things like that, little benefits of being on the Nest Council. So when we're talking about blockchain plans, that is something that we're looking to do beyond the KTO exchange, but for us, the focus right now is fully on providing this exchange.
Understood. And I also love the Nest Council going along with the stork mentality. Did Martin, your chief marketing officer, is he the one that came up with all the unification of all the stork stuff? Is that because whoever came up with it, just good job. I want to tell you good job, okay?
I think it was definitely a collective effort between all of us. And also the community. I mean, we had a member of the community come up with the name Stork Holders way back when we were trying to come up with the best names for the holders, and that is fantastic. I fell in love instantly with that. But in terms of the idea behind the project and the idea of the stork, and that was basically done off when we were researching the project. So we knew we wanted it to be, of course, transparent and accessible. We wanted to dox ourselves and have all these other things that we talked about in place. But when coming up with the name, it was essentially we were looking through Japanese folklore stories, and that's when we came across a folklore story about a group of villagers that would often give offerings to the storks by this massive lake. And then in return, the storks would then dive into the lake and retrieve treasure and give them back to the villagers. And we just thought that was such a perfect sort of analogy for staking and what we wanted to provide on the exchange. Just a really colourful sort of depiction of that. So on the back of that, we made our logo a stork. We made, obviously called ourselves Kounotori, being Japanese for stork. And then, we've just run with it there, really, and it's people have come up with some really creative and interesting things.
I will have to look up that story. Very interesting.
I guess have we called it stalking yet? Or is it?
That was one of the names at one point. It was the Stalkers, and then we decided against it.
It sounds a little bit too close, especially with that English accent. It sounds a little bit too close to stalking, right? So
absolutely,
it's just going to get misinterpreted. Or I thought instead of staking, storking. But I think you guys, there's a good balance here. There's a good balance between witty and engaging, and then also still professional, right? You don't want to go too far to either side, because if you're too uptight and the tie is too tight, you can't relate to people. You're not a real person. But then if you are too loose and too funny, then you're kind of somebody like, and no shade to them, you're kind of somebody like Dogecoin, right? Which I've known about Dogecoin for many, many years. Still have love for it, but sorry, it's a little bit of a joke. It was meant to be a joke, literally. So you got to have a good balance there. I wanted to bring up to everybody here on the call that you guys are CertiK audited. So just once again, we've been talking about the transparency, the security. CertiK is kind of I would say the gold standard. Maybe that's a wrong analogy, but I usually think of it as the gold standard of audits in crypto. Bitmart actually just hosted a party with them in New York City along with Algorand. So they're a pretty trustworthy gang of people. And real quick before we take some listener questions, I wanted to talk about this is probably in the future. There's a portion on your website here where you talk about a Kounotori payment card. And then I wanted to get into the 20% APR, APY. I always get these mixed up. Let's just say staking return. The 20% staking return paid in a stable coin. Because it doesn't say what stable coin, and it doesn't say when we'll be able to do that KTO. So I think the payment card is in the future, but I'm interested in that 20% because that's pretty high for a staking return.
In terms of staking returns, obviously that's going to be in the form of stable coins, various different stable coins. And that goes for, as I said, other trusted tokens. They'll also be able to stake and see returns in the form of stables. I think that was the most important part to us was doing it in a sustainable and reliable way. We've seen time and time again over the last sort of few months, exchanges making promises that they couldn't uphold to, and then have had to retrace and track back. And we wanted to make sure that we could provide what we're offering. Obviously, the source of the percentage APY is going to be mostly from the back of transactions happening, anywhere on the exchange that will then go into staking funds. So I think doing it in this way, and rather than creating money out of thin air and staking in the form of your own currency, which again is not a sustainable way of doing things, we definitely lent towards the idea of returns in the form of stables. Oh, gotcha. Sorry, you asked about the card as well, didn't you? Again, that is very much something that we're working on in the background, but it's something that will come following the exchange and will be implemented into the exchange afterwards. But yeah, very much interesting concepts, and we've got a number of ideas. It's probably a little bit too early to go into that at this stage, but we will definitely give updates on that in the future.
Very cool. Very cool. It's interesting, all these different payment cards coming out. So it's definitely a feature, even if it's just a minor part of what Kounotori is trying to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
So guys, I'm trying to think about anything here that we haven't gone over other than the roadmap, which I want to kind of save for the end. It's always a nice way to close up on stuff because it allows people to talk about their hopes, dreams, concerns about the market, things like that. I think right now I want to open it up to listener questions. We have a couple listener questions that want to come in here. And right before, I just wanted to lay down some ground rules. Usually you guys are pretty good at these AMAs about asking good questions, not being disrespectful, being in a quiet environment, things like that. So I just wanted to say, one, you have to speak English. That's the only language that I can speak. I have to moderate the conversation. Usually everyone that I'm talking to, also English is their first language. So please, it's okay if you're not a native speaker or you kind of struggle through it. I'll understand you eventually and moderate. Two, please be in a quiet space. If you're outside or you're in a loud space, I'm not going to be able to hear you talk, and it's going to be hard to answer your question. And then three, please be respectful. These gentlemen are my guests here on the AMA. I won't tolerate people being rude to them or anything like that. You'll just get muted and, taken out of the space anyway, so it's not worth it. And then along with that, please don't show your project here. I've had people that come in and they just try and yell about their project. I can tell you as a marketer, it's not a good way to get people to your project. So just once again, you're going to be blocked, muted, taken out of the space. We're here to talk about Kounotori token. If your project that you're working on, you want to be an asset to them, to connect with them, sure, why not ask them about it? But we're here to talk about your questions about Kounotori token, the ecosystem, the project, hopes, concerns, etc. Sufyan, you have been raising your hand like a madman, so let's add you as a speaker, and hopefully you will show up here soon. Hey, Sufyan. Hey, yeah, you're here. You can ask a question.
A question now.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys. I saw on your website that KTO token has supply in quadrillions, and you guys were saying that you are planning to develop a blockchain in future. Don't you think that supply is too much for that?
So, I mean, on the point of max supply, I think one thing that people need to understand. So, just to be clear, a quadrillion is one with 15 zeros. Okay. Traditional fiat currency works at 2 decimal places, right? So if you have £1, you can have £1 59, but that's how many decimal places it goes to. By default, ERC20 tokens go to 18 decimal places. So you could launch a token with 1 total supply, and you would be able to split that by 18 decimal places. So the number in max supply, it doesn't really matter. In the nicest way possible, most projects will have a max supply in the billions because they want their holders to feel like, what if this becomes worth $1 one day? I could make, this could become $1 billion company. Kounotori can't become a $1 token, right? Because there isn't a quadrillion dollars. And so the max supply is kind of irrelevant, honestly, for any project. It's just a number, and this is a number we've gone with. I mean, there may be a story behind it. I can tell you more about that, but it doesn't really matter. Like I say, we could have launched with 1 token, and then we just have a way smaller number as we'd have an extremely high single token price, and it'd be like Bitcoin, where people are really, anyone actually using Bitcoin for payments is using like a thousandth of a Bitcoin, like Bitcoin with a small m you would have seen, because it's just too expensive. You can't really price anything in the world in Bitcoin anymore, because if I want to buy, a bread, you can't tell me how much Bitcoin that would be. You have to fractionalize that Bitcoin to a smaller number. So max supply doesn't really matter. And on the second point of developing a blockchain, same thing, right? Like, again, it doesn't, Ripple has an unlimited max supply effectively, and it still, still exists and still very successful.
Okay, got it. And what about the Nest console? Will it work like Certic does?
Let someone else take that.
Sorry, can you repeat that question, because I think you're properly.
Okay. Can you please tell me about the Nest console? Will it work like Certic does?
Sorry, like what? Like Certic?
Like Certic audit different projects?
Yeah. So basically, what we plan to do is after we go through verification of any projects that wants to be listed on our exchange, like is audit or KYC, we want to actually give people opportunity to vote on a project. So basically, all KTO holders will be able to vote if they want to launch that project on our platform or not, and that's Nest Council basically.
Okay. Okay, that's it. Thank you for your answer, and best of luck for your project.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Sufyan,
Thank
for
you.
the great questions.
Thank you.
So it looks like the next one up is going to be Sheik Ryan. Sheik, please join us. Anybody who wants to ask a question, you can line up and request. You should be approved here in 1 second. Sheik, I approved you. But as we know, Twitter can...
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised none of us have been kicked off yet.
That's what I thought was happening to TA Jake, but
yeah.
It also might depend on where you are. Oh, okay, you should be connected right now. That's what Twitter's telling me. But it also might depend on your connection wherever you are in the world.
Says that he's still a listener for me.
Yeah, it said that he was approved, and now he's not approved, and I'm going to approve him again. If we don't get him in a little bit, guys, we can... it may also just be this Twitter Spaces. I know that sometimes you can go into a Twitter Space, and it'll kick people.
Yeah, they can just be unexplicably bugged sometimes.
Well, yeah, and to be fair, it's like, hey, it's free, right? We didn't have to pay anything to get in here, so just the fact that we're talking at all is amazing. That's the way I kind of look at it. So anybody who wants to, looks like you got kicked, and we'll try one more time. See, it's telling me that you can speak on my end, but I still see you as requested. Give me the purple heart.
You might be on, if you're not in the Twitter app, it doesn't work. You can't be on Twitter mobile in web. You have to be in the app.
There you go, Sheik. Yeah, you're in. You're in, Sheik.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, you can ask a question.
Okay, I have an internet issue. That's why I can speak up there. My question is, what's the benefit of people that hold your tokens? Like, do you have any government tokens, or most of the people don't really care about the benefit of holding a token? Oh, shit.
Currently, as we spoke about a little bit before, if you're holding Kounotori currently, then you obviously receive reflections in the form of our native token. Obviously, once the exchange launches, there'll be staking in place, which will be even more beneficial. The fact that now you can hold Kounotori and receive passive income without the exchange being present is why we've implemented this. But yeah, in time, being a holder of Kounotori once the exchange has been built will have numerous benefits. And as we talked about before, being part of the Nest Council, where you are able to help evolve the project and the platform, you're able to vote for which tokens you'd like to see next and make other various changes known. It's got a number of benefits, really.
Oh, thanks. I love that. You got a lot of benefits from holding it. And my second question is, you're kind of a DEX. I even support other projects if they want to launch on your DEX, or you're just going to supply a project built on your chains. I don't know if you get that question.
Sorry, do you mind just repeating that one more time?
I think I got it.
Okay.
I think the question was, are we a DEX, and are we going to be selective about the projects that come on? So firstly, we're not a DEX, right? So like we're specifically not a DEX. So DEX is a decentralized exchange, and we're a centralized exchange. And as we were saying earlier, one of the reasons we are a centralized exchange is so that not anyone can just turn up and launch a project on our platform. So yeah, we're going to be quite selective. Our I guess process is very much around, can the people involved be trusted? And so we as we said before, are going to be quite selective about who can get onto the platform.
Oh, thank you. That was my question. I would appreciate you for answering that.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you so much for the excellent questions, Sheik. And sorry we had some of those connection issues. It looks like K-Ray, you also want to ask a question, and you might have a little bit better time trying to connect here. Nope, you're gone, K-Ray. As soon as you get let in, you're gone. Alrighty, gentlemen. Well, let's see. Wait, K-Ray, you requested again. Something's happening with this space. We're gonna keep moving on. Keep moving on. I approved you.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Hey, K-Ray, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I must have hit the button inadvertently. Anyway, look, like this project, been reading over the white paper and the web page and so forth. The roadmap looks very intriguing, of course, as well, with the top 20, top 10, and what was it, top 5 exchange listing. Just curious as to, I guess, how are you guys gonna get those exchange listings?
Yeah, sure. There's, I mean, so far we've managed to uphold to our roadmap that we released prior to investors some time ago. In that, you know, what was a considerable milestone for the project, especially at this stage, was being able to list on Bitmart and offer that secure alternative way of purchasing Kounotori via the USDT pair. In terms of future plans for future exchanges, of course, we are constantly looking for opportunities, and we are in communication with other people. Far too early, of course, to announce anything or go into things without confirmation. But yes, we're constantly on the lookout for exchanges and opportunities to help provide funds and marketing funds and development funds for Kounotori. There's a number of things, and I wish I could talk about them, but unfortunately I just cannot at this stage, because these things need to be confirmed, and these things there's a bit of headway to do currently before we can officially announce anything. But yeah, rest assured, while Tech Alchemy and ourselves are pushing forward on the development of the exchange, we're also looking at various opportunities that will help us with volume and will help us for outreach of the project itself.
And then, what about any other plans? I know you guys are ERC 20 tokens, so are there any other future plans to add another chain to be able to, I don't know, say like Binance or BNB or Cosmos or whatever other chains that you'd be tradable on as well?
We are actually on Polygon too since I think for 6 months now. So you can also find us on Polygon.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. Yeah, love the project. Just adding to my bag, and we'll continue buying DCA and into the project, and look forward to future updates and so forth. So thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Appreciate your questions.
Nice. Yeah, thank you, K-Ray. Always nice to have good questions like that. We've got one more person's popped up. Sent Lucis. I'm going to butcher this name, so I'm just going to stop saying it. Sent Luck. I know that's part of the name. And I have approved you, so hopefully you come in here soon. Hey, yeah, we can hear you. Sure, yeah, ask away.
Yes. So, my question is, what is the top 3 things for properties in 2022? Could you share some plan for the upcoming year?
Sure, yeah, this might be actually a good time for guys. Why don't you just briefly go over, let's do this. Let's do a roadmap for 2022, and then as we end, I'm telling people where they can find you. You can really expand on the roadmap if you want to. But I know that people probably have questions about that.
Yeah. Could you share some plan for upcoming year?
Yeah, sure. If we're talking about the development roadmap, which we'll be releasing imminently, then we are looking at the purpose of this roadmap is to inform investors of where we are, at what stage of the project we are week by week, so that they can follow along the development with us at the same time. It's because what we've taken perhaps for granted in the past is I'm explaining these things and where we are within development via AMA. However, not everyone's obviously able to make AMA. We can record them and then pass the details on to people. But yeah, the idea of this roadmap existing for the development is solely to make it clearer to investors where we are and what's happening, so that they can be aware of when imminent things are coming, such as alpha phase, beta phase, and then testing, when things are being audited, and that it helps display those milestones. If we're talking about the general roadmap that we have for the project, then, as I've said, of course, we're looking to release the exchange first and foremost. But then, of course, we will look into various other ways of pushing Kounotori, some of which is early talks, early doors. But yes, of course, as we talked about before, implementing a Kounotori card with various benefits coming on that, and implementing an NFT kind of marketplace, based on the feedback that we've had so far about our NFTs, people have responded really positively. So that would be something that we definitely consider. And then, of course, long-term goal will be to create our own blockchain. So the buck doesn't stop at merely the exchange. That is just what we are 110% focused on right now, and giving you updates as often as we can. But yeah, beyond the exchange, there's definitely a lot to look forward to that we are in the very early process of looking at.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I was on mute there. Very cool. Yes, thank you for the good question there. Gentlemen, let's try and take 2 more questions, and then I'm going to stop us and we can, do your roadmap and end your sign-off stuff, because I know that your time is valuable. And as long as we get to an hour in a space where we've covered all the bases of a project and we've really taken the time to have no interruptions and go in deep, that's usually my goal. We've hit that goal. Like I said, I hate it when people do like 20-minute Twitter spaces or clips where it's clear that, they don't realize that people work hard on this stuff. So I just like to get the full story, and people in the space, they can decide whether they want to invest or not, or get involved or not. So as long as we've gone over all that stuff, I'm good. Panda, you should be here. If you want to unmute yourself, you can ask a question.
Hey, what's up? This is more.
What up, Panda?
How's it going? This is more of a question for Tech Alchemy. Is it possible to have monthly payments for staking, but you can opt out of the early cancellation? So, for example, you have a 12-month staking period, but you get paid every month, but you can't cancel the staking early.
You can or can't cancel. So everything is possible. So a lot of staking platforms have lock-in periods where they say you stake for 3 months, and they can still unlock your actual staking rewards as often as you like. So if your question is it possible? Absolutely. And even cancellation, right? Like you'd have to implement it. You'd have to decide that that's something you want to do. It's not just by default something you can do. But yeah, you could have a penalty, a percentage penalty, or a fixed fee that will allow you to unlock your tokens as well. I don't know if that's in the roadmap, but I can tell you from a possibility perspective, yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. All right, awesome. Thanks.
No worries.
And thank you, Panda, for not eating eucalyptus leaves right there on the mic. That's what pandas eat, right? Am I correct on that? No, is that it's koala bears. Oh gosh, wrong continent. Okay, wrong continent. It looks like we had another question in the queue, but they left. So okay, that's fine. That's all right. Panda, that was a good question to kind of round this out. And so gentlemen, let's talk about your roadmap for this year and your hopes and dreams for the future, and that'll be a great way to close us out. And we can talk about the best places to find you, where you want people to interact with you, maybe, your Discord, social, stuff like that. So whoever wants to talk about it, you can talk about the full roadmap from phase 1 until now. You can talk about this year. You can talk about, what's KTO going to be 5 years in the future. Go crazy with it.
I'll let someone else jump in perhaps after me, but I just want to emphasize that once again, we are fully focused on the exchange currently and putting all resources and all brain power into the exchange. But yeah, we will definitely have things that are coming following that. Obviously, there are catalysts in between, such as exchange listings and benefits to the currency. We're pushing forward with because we've obviously established our limited company, so that gives more validity to what we're doing and what we're building, and is a bit of a requirement to obviously having to manage the exchange. We've opened up various ways of financing things through the company, which has been enormously helpful, and will definitely allow us to reach said catalysts, within our roadmap quite a bit quicker. That's something that we're currently working on right now. And then hopes and dreams for Kounotori is that people use this platform and are able to trade, discuss, stake, and be an all-in-one inclusive platform that can do all these things. And as we say, it's a community-driven project, both in the currency and the platform. And we're hoping that people will, be around to help us evolve and help us push forward this exchange, and then build the blockchain much later into the future, following the launch of the exchange.
Very good, very good. Anybody else want to give their comments, their hopes, dreams on that? Anything like that?
Yeah, so basically, like Martin said, we are fully focusing on creating our exchange for now. Bleeding market, crypto market in general is not helping us with that. But yeah, our plan for this and next year is to just develop first beta, then platform, then staking, NFT Marketplace, all that basic stuff we want to we want to develop, and then think about other things like the blockchain, for example, or Visa card.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and oh, sorry. I was just going to jump in and add to that I think you definitely see a lot of projects, especially in the past, where they're promising too much and trying to deliver too much at one time. And that is where we are taking the approach, in that we are focused on the exchange and the exchange alone for now. Obviously, we're talking about other things that we're looking to build beyond it. But yeah, very much don't want to convolute and make a mess of things by offering too many things and then not being able to deliver on timelines. It's important to us that we focus just on the exchange for now, make it as good and as accessible as possible, and implement all ideas and improvements that the community itself has been suggesting, even as we're just a token currently. So yeah, just to stress that we don't want to overcomplicate things. We want to just deliver on this for now. But yeah, of course, we're looking to do things beyond the exchange in the future.
Absolutely, and it's funny because everybody wants you to multitask in the crypto world, and they want you to make them a millionaire, give them an online community, give them NFT. They want you to give them 7 things at once. But I can't remember where I heard this adage, but they were like, if you want to see juggling, you got to go to the circus, right? And I don't think people want to live at the circus. So it's
a good analogy, yeah.
it's you let people work, let people do what they're good at, right? You don't expect the person that's taking your order at McDonald's to also advise you on your 401k portfolio holdings. Let people do what they're supposed to do and what they're passionate about doing, and good things will come if you're patient and you allocate your resources correctly. So guys, the website that I've been looking at for everybody looking at here is kounotoritoken.com. And I realized we probably didn't spell Kounotori. It's Kounotori. And it is a Japanese word, as the gentlemen have said here before. So where else should they find you online? Is there a Discord community they should join? Where, to learn all about KTO, what do you gentlemen recommend?
We definitely recommend to join our Discord because the majority of our community is actually on Discord, and we have really a lot of people there, over almost 2,000 people. Everyone is active. We host different community events there. So yeah, the Discord is a good place to start.
Very cool, very cool. And I know that all of those socials are on kounotoritoken.com. There's quite a lot: Twitter, Discord, Telegram, Instagram, Reddit, Twitch. Interesting. We could get into a whole rabbit hole about what the Twitch is, but there's also a store for Kounotori merchandise, all sorts of stuff, doxed, CertiK audited. You've heard the gentleman here talk about all the stuff that they are trying to build, first and foremost with the community-driven centralized exchange, the 20% APR that they're going to pay out, an NFT marketplace, NFT staking, their hopes for their own blockchain, a governance council called the Nest Council, everything Stork related, but in a tasteful Stork way, which is hard to do. You don't see that in a lot of projects. So I just wanted to thank all the guys here for being with me on this Twitter Spaces and talking all about KTO, Kounotori token. Gentlemen, unless there's anything that you have a burning desire to say, we're going to wrap it up here. It's been really fun talking with you for almost an hour and a half now.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you to everyone who's taken the time to tune in and listen. Hopefully, you've learned something about the project, and hopefully, you'll do your research and check us out.
Absolutely. And if you've just tuned in, if you tuned in halfway, if you missed some of this, don't worry. I'm going to take this audio, I'm going to clean it up a little bit, and I'm going to archive it on the Crypto Conversations podcast stream where I have all these archives. So, if you got kind of tripped up by some of the stuff that we were talking about with the anti-honeypot or the anti-tax manipulation, or you can't remember whether a sandwich attack involves wheat bread or a smart contract address, don't worry. You can go and listen to the entire conversation. You can learn, you can take action from there with the links towards their website and all that. All right. Gentlemen, on behalf